Hey gang, how are you doing? I trust this finds you well. Today I would like to talk to you about the African National Congress, aka ANC. The ANC seems to be bribing some pastors to perform some PSYOP, which is a psychological warfare against our own citizens or population, so as to confuse them about who they should vote for. Let's first listen to this imposter, and then we'll take it from there. I'll do my analysis thereafter. Okay, let's put his volume on. His volume is somewhere here.
Imsebenzi ka-ANC kuba noma bewugxeka bethi awenzi lutho kodwa amakhadi ama-social grants aseyikhwameni zabo bathi lo ANC awenzi lutho kodwa bahlele ezindlini ezakhiwe yilo ANC bathi u-ANC awenzi lutho uNkulunkulu kodwa imigwaqo abahamba kuyo lo ANC awukalibali ukuyakha bathi lo ANC awenzi lutho kodwa ingane isafunda nakalokhu kanti muphi lo ANC abakhuluma ngawo baba wethu oyingcwele size kuwe wena othembekile bathi kumele sehle kwisibalo esikuso kodwa wena okwazi ukukhuphula ibalo nangalo nyaka mhla ka-29 Meyi seyihlomile akuvuka amakhawa lombutho abambisane nathi avuke emagumbini omane athi kuyaphakanywa phakama eNgqolose phakama ANC phakama ungamsahlela.
Now, I don't know the name of the gentleman, but one thing I can tell you, he's no pastor called by God, and obviously I don't need to establish that in this video. It's really simple to establish by the so-called prayer, but I don't need to establish that. My main intention here is to be pragmatic and focus only on his assertions. So what is he saying? He starts by saying, kodwa isizwe sonke baba wethu oyingcwele sesikhohliwe imisebenzi ka-ANC. He is saying this whole nation, Holy Father, has forgotten the works of the African National Congress. And then he goes on to say, noma bewugxeka bethi awenzi lutho, kodwa amakhadi e-social grants asekhwameni zabo. That means even though they criticize the ANC saying that it's doing nothing, but the social grant cards are in their pockets or are in their purses. Bathi lo ANC awenzi lutho, kodwa bahleli ezindlini ezakhiwe ngulo ANC. That means they claim that the ANC is doing nothing, but they are staying in houses built by this ANC. Bathi u-ANC akenzi lutho uNkulunkulu. Kodwa imigaqo abahamba kuyo lo ANC akakhohlwanga ukuyakha. They claim that the ANC is doing nothing most high, but yet the roads in which they traveled, the African National Congress hasn't forgotten to build them. Bathi lo ANC akenzi lutho kodwa ingane zisafunda nangakaloku. They claim the African National Congress is doing nothing, but yet children are going to school because of the ANC, even as we speak. Kanti yimuphi lo ANC abakhuluma ngawo? Which ANC are they talking about? Baba wethu oyingcwele size kuwe wena othembekile. Holy Father, we have come to you because you are trustworthy. Bathi kumele sehle kwisibalo esikuso, kodwa wena okwazi ukukhuphula izibalo. Nangalo nyaka mhla ka-29 Meyi seyihlomile. Now he says, they claim that the ANC is going to be reduced in numbers in this upcoming election, but we are coming to you who has an ability to increase our numbers even during this upcoming election. He says they are armed to the teeth. That's what it means, say Hlomile. They are armed, fully armed. And then he goes on and says, akuvuka amaqhawe alombutho. This is a dead giveaway for anybody who's a Christian. They know that this manner of hybridization is completely forbidden in scripture. He says, that means the heroes and the heroines of this organization should arise from the dead. And abambisane nati, that means they should hold hand in hand with us. Avuge emagumbini omane, they should wake up from all the forums. I don't know what is he talking about there. To be honest, I've just given you direct interpretation. Ati, that is that the heroines and the heroes now should say, ati kuyapakanywa, phakama Khongolose, phakama ANC, phakama ungabisahlehla. So the heroes and the heroines should tell the populace or the population that this is a time to stand up and what? Stand up for the ANC. Stand up ANC. Stand up ANC. Stand up and do not retreat backward. Now, clearly, if you paid attention to that, that is not a prayer. That is exactly what I call the psyop, a psychological warfare, assault directed to South Africans. Is akin or equivalent to gaslighting. Why is it equivalent to gaslighting? It's the same as saying, if you see somebody doing something wrong, and then you said, why did you do that? And the person says, did what? I didn't do that. And then you say, no, but I saw you. And then the person asks you, are you going to believe me or are you going to believe your lying eyes? So what is that person doing now? He's attacking you in the spirit of your mind. He's trying to discredit you and make you psychologically unstable. So the African National Congress, according in my assessment and according to this imposter, has built roads for us, is responsible for our education, is responsible for our schooling, is responsible for us earning SASSA grants, right? Well, let's start with the SASSA grants. President Thabo Mbeki, when Jacob Zuma announced in Parliament that there was 17 million people on social grant during his reign as a president, Thabo Mbeki went out publicly and said this: it is an indictment to his political party that they should take credit and see social grant as something to rejoice over. That the more the social grant recipients increase in the country, the more it sends a wrong message in terms of how the economy of the country is going, that it is going south. More people are not having jobs. It is not something to celebrate publicly at all. Instead, if you created jobs, more people will have no need for social grants, but they will have jobs. In an environment that is conducive to job creation, where investor confidence has been increased by your policies, you are able to ensure that more people are employed. So social grants, as this pastor has announced, and Ramaphosa announced on the 8th of January, that they are now sitting at 28 million. Zuma was boasting with 17 million. Ramaphosa is boasting with 28 million. Well, I'll give them the same response that Mbeki did. And of all of these presidents, there's only one who's an economist, and that is Thabo Mbeki. And I agree with Thabo Mbeki 100%. And any economist worth of their salt will tell you social grants are not a good indication of the economy of the country. Why? Because those of us who are paying tax has become burdensome. I'll give you a simple example what I mean by that. My tax bracket was 41%. Now, when you add to that 41% of pay as you earn, you get 15% of VAT, that's 56%. When you look at that, then you say to yourself, there's still a fuel levy. What is your definition of slavery? So basically, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So that's where social grants come from, which is contrary to what Cyril Ramaphosa said on the 8th, that if the ANC is not elected, social grants may not be paid out. So even this pastor ought to know that social grants are not because of the ANC. No, social grants are because you and I who are working are heavily burdened with tax so as to sustain livelihoods of individuals who are well-able-bodied creatures who are not working. And Why are they not working? Because there are multiple reasons why people are not working. And one of them is that government has not created a conducive environment for investment. Hence, the African National Congress should be removed from power. It's just that simple. South Africa is not where it is right now by osmosis. No, there has been deliberate strategies employed by the African National Congress to ensure that we are where we are right now. Okay, having said that, that is just the issue of the social grants. Let's go to the houses that he claims that people are staying in, the houses built by the ANC. Obviously, here he's targeting the poor, right? Because no person who has gone to university and who's working, even if you didn't go to university, is staying in a house that has been built by government. But let's see if indeed that claim is true and can be supported by facts on the ground. So this is the RDP project, okay? Listen to this.
The Rangeville housing project came to a halt when the contractor left the site last year. 59 million rand later, some houses still have no roofs or windows, and others are still at foundation level. Jolene Daniels' house is among the unfinished ones.
The reason I apply for a house here is for my children to be safe. I can't guarantee my life on earth. I'm already old. I'm turning 51 this year. I can't guarantee my life, but I want to see my children in my house.
Daniels has a stand number confirming that she's meant to benefit from this housing project. She says she was excited when the construction of the houses began at least 4 years ago.
I'm staying on the highway on the N14 and it's very, 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 very dangerous there. Accidents happen late, early mornings there. What will the government do or the councillor do when a truck is running in my shanty?
For Sharon Geert, the new house was meant to offer her and her children a sense of privacy. She says living with 5 children in a small shack is a nightmare.
So sometimes when we must wash ourselves, the boys must stand outside, we must go in. We must go outside, they must come in. And raining, it's for me so bad because sometimes I pray that it mustn't rain.
Geert is pinning her hopes on the government to resuscitate and complete the housing project.
Please help me.
This is very sad state of affairs and a complete violation of the Constitution. I mean, think about what this woman has just said. The Constitution says every South African has an inherent right to dignity which must be respected and protected. How is her dignity protected as a mother of these kids who they must go out for her to take a bath or to whatever it is, to take a bath. All the boys must go out and then they as the girls must. This is really, really disheartening. And yet you can have the so-called men of the cloth, and I'm putting that in parentheses because that man is an imposter, making the assertions that he made publicly. There's no way this information I'm sharing with you has escaped his attention. Hence, I'm saying that is not a prayer. Remember, God cannot be mocked. You can't lie to God directly in his face. Okay? It makes absolutely no sense to do what he was doing. Hence, I'm calling it a psyop. It's a psychological operation meant to attack the feeble-minded, the simpletons, in the spirit of their minds and manipulate them to vote for the African National Congress. Now, check this out.
Housing scheme at Elovo, south of Durban, are in dire straits after a housing project came to a halt. The homeowners allege that the housing project was stopped by government 3 years ago without an explanation.
These houses meant to bring relief to the homeless residents of Elovo, but they have now become a burden. One homeowner, Ntombizo Ndombili, is using her pension money to complete her house. The grandmother of 2 says she sometimes goes to bed on an empty stomach as she buys building material with her grant money.
They just left the house before they could complete it. Now I'm using the grant money to put windows and doors, and life is not easy for us.
Some of the houses have no windows or doors. Others only have a foundation.
When they were about to complete the project, they disappeared into thin air, leaving us with no house. I had to move in, and I ended up getting sick.
The Department of Human Settlement says it will investigate.
we're going to be investigating.
And of course, you know that that investigation will amount absolutely to nothing, right? Okay, let's see another clip. I'm just giving you a sample of how incorrect, for the lack of a better word, because as I always say in my videos, there are words I'm not allowed to use. How falsified is the information the so-called pastor who's apparently praying publicly is giving to the public. Therefore, he is literally a propaganda tool. He's a useful idiot. That's what Stalin will call him. He's a useful idiot for the African National Congress. Let's see another video.
Tangani has been asking for an RDP house for over 15 years. He lives in a dilapidated mud structure. A contractor left only a concrete foundation slab 8 years ago. He believes his mud house won't survive the rainy season.
Just as a note, did you hear that this man has been waiting for an RDP house for 15 years of the 29 years that the ANC has been in power? There are people, by the way, if you go to housing waiting lists in the respective provinces, there are people who've been waiting since 1994 on the waiting list. Make no mistake about it. This is easily provable. It's just that right now, they will not give you that information. But here is another point. This man, they claimed that they were coming to fix. They left a concrete slab there 8 years ago. This is really, really very painful. And what? An attack on our constitution and the human rights that are enshrined in the constitution. That these individuals have an inherent right to dignity which must be respected and protected. And which organization is doing this, is violating their rights? It's the African National Congress. That is why I'm challenging that imposter who's standing there pretending to be a pastor unto God, which clearly he is not, making assertions like those, that people are staying in the houses that the African National Congress has built. Now, let's turn over the leaf to now the roads. Which roads were built by the African National Congress? If you crisscross our country, you are going to observe that most of the national roads, in fact not most, all the national roads were built by the government of apartheid or during the apartheid time, certainly not during this era. And the ANC is even failing to maintain those roads. They are debilitating right in their presence. Why? Because their hands are in the cookie jar and they are stealing the money that is in those coffers. If you look at the N1 from Cape Town to Limpopo, that N1 was built by government of apartheid. If you look at the N3 from Durban to the Eastern Cape and from Durban to Gauteng, that entry was built by the government of apartheid. If you look at the N2 from KZN all the way to the Western Cape, it was built by government of apartheid. The same N2 takes you from Western Cape back to the Eastern Cape and back to KZN, government of apartheid. I can name most of the what you call national roads. You would not even relate to them because you do not know their names. But if you do, you will know that they were built during government of apartheid. The R101 in Johannesburg, the R75 in Port Elizabeth, the N9, the N10 in the Eastern Cape towards Cradock, and towards what you call Middleburg Cape. All those roads were built by government of apartheid, and right now they are not being maintained. Why? Because those who are supposed to maintain the roads have absolutely no qualifications to do so, and they are just mere comrades that have been employed because they made the loudest noise during apartheid era. You get the point? Not because of anything special about them. They don't have the relevant qualifications. They don't have the prerequisite experience to perform the work. It's just mere catered employees who are responsible for the chaos which we see on our roads. So let's look at the roads. Once again, the pastor is found lying when he says the ANC has built roads in which we drive and walk, because that is not the case. Let's look at some of the roads. This video made some news on TikTok, or just went viral on TikTok. This individual went around painting the streets. You see that? Everywhere he saw a pothole, he wrote there ANC. It's a shame that somebody has to do that, because it ought to be obvious that the ANC is responsible for this, right? I could have driven to the nearest location where I stay to demonstrate the same thing, to simply take a video, but obviously I didn't want to do that. It's not worth my while when there are videos on YouTube from which I could extract just to simply demonstrate to you. Can you see that? Okay, now let's move to the next video. In this video clip, you see potholes in Alexander. Can you see that? In Alex. Can you see that? Amazing. Let's get a little bit of the volume for these potholes.
And
in
cement
Alex.
to address the problem. Residents live in fear of vehicles driving into their cars and pedestrians while trying to avoid a pothole, and still having to dig deep into their pockets for tires.
It is really hard because I'm not working. So it really, I've got to deep down, and it slows down whatever I'm trying to make using these cars. It takes me out of budget.
Another road in Cosmos City in the north of Johannesburg is also riddled with potholes. Residents have to negotiate with these potholes as they make their way to various destinations.
We live with the stress of potholes and buying tires. Even taking the child to the hospital can be problematic at times.
Johannesburg Road Agency, which is responsible for municipal roads in the city, says it's repaired 5,000 of the 7,000 potholes on the roads damaged by the December floods.
Whatever amount that they have spent on the potholes is clearly not enough, because once again, if you drive as much as I do and you crisscross this country, you will see how dangerous it is to be on the road today. There's head-on collisions, cars hitting others at the back, and all what they were doing was to avoid potholes. And these potholes, according to the UN treaty, potholes in every country are supposed to be resolved within 24 hours after they have been reported. In our case, these potholes are literally the order of the day. If you go to areas like Alex, as I'm showing you, you go to Diepsloot. Diepsloot is actually much better than Oliven. You go to Oliven, you go to Tembisa, you go to Soweto. You can see that, as a matter of fact, even without going to these locations, you can come to the suburbs, go to Fourways. As a simple example, go to Fourways, drive through Dainfen, look at Broadacres, look at the roads there. And this used to be the suburb. That's no longer the case, because there are ginormous potholes on the road that have a potential of murdering you. Okay, and then it's going to say you were reckless. You drive at 60 kilometers an hour, you hit a pothole like what you are seeing on your screen right now, or you're at least trying to avoid it. You may have a head-on collision. You hit a pothole like that, you may have a tire burst, and a tire burst is known that it takes a car to a different direction in which than the direction to which the car was traveling. All of this, according to the men of the cloth, are roads built by the ANC. No, these roads are not built by the ANC. They were built during apartheid era. However, the ANC has failed to maintain them. I've given you the evidence to that regard. I believe I've adequately done justice to that. Let's move to the next point now, the schools to which children are going. Once again, you'll remember recently, in fact, there is a NAFSAS scandal in our country wherein children's fees from last year were not paid, as therefore their results from varsity were not released to them. As we speak right now, universities have opened, registration has taken place, NAFSA still hasn't paid yet. So what is he talking about? What is he really talking about? Now, obviously, I'm not beaming that on the screen because you can a simple Google of the NAFSA scandal will put that on your screen. And here's the other point. Children are going to preschools wherein there is pit toilets, no flushing toilets. Are you following me? Let me show you this one. Now, this is very painful. Listen to this.
Now, the family of Langalam Viki fears that the 4-year-old was murdered. There has been a huge uproar following the girl's death last week in a preschool, at a preschool pit toilet. At the same time, Amnesty International South Africa says it hopes that this incident will be a wake-up call to government to take urgent action in eradicating pit toilets. Some political parties have also echoed these sentiments after visiting the Mngwangele Junior Secondary School and the pupils' home. ENCA's Ronald Masinda has the latest on the story.
Langalam Viki's body was discovered inside the septic tank on Tuesday. Her grandfather, Buzakban Machobi, suspects that there was foul play involved.
Ukuba bendikho nam isela belingamthatha ndikho because kwimoto esibhangapha kwesibhangapha kwezilayishayo kulaa phithiphithi iyenzeke loo nto nepicture ye-private school ngelaa xesha lophithizelo lilonke ke tata asinamntu sithi ubani ukuba loo mntu khona uthixo uzayivelisa loo nto asithandabuze.
The family raised concerns about the child's disappearance after she didn't return home after she was last seen at school. Her grandfather says it was unlikely that the pit toilets were going to be eradicated after they were only built in 2016.
Can you imagine that? That in 2016, the African National Congress is building schools that do not have flushing toilets. And this is what that pastor standing in that pulpit is wanting us to take pride in. Can you imagine that? This is unbelievable. What must have happened to this individual to accept to stand in the pulpit and speak the way he just did there? Because he's lying through his teeth. But before I finalize my analysis, Amnesty International hopes that this will be a wake-up call for the African National Congress to exterminate the pit toilets. That is a hope against hope. The real hope will be to remove these corrupt, inept Luciferians from power, because it is pretty clear by their conduct that they have absolutely no care for the masses of the people of this country. The same masses who braved against bullets in the previous government. One thing I only agree with the fake imposter is that indeed we need to rise up. Not the ANC, no, the country. We need to rise up against the ANC ilk, these Luciferians, and these communists, and get rid of them from power through our ballot. Now, it may not happen now because people are still deceived by the lies that the African National Congress has told years without number. Okay? So people are still deceived by that. There are many people, for an example, who still believe a lie that the African National Congress liberated them. That's a separate video altogether, but that is a lie. It's a blatant lie that was engineered as a psyop towards your brain for you to think that you got your freedom because of the ANC. There's no such an occasion that took place in this country. That's a blatant lie. So, nevertheless, in conclusion, it is for me disheartening that there could be an individual who is called a pastor, who clearly, in my view, has received a bribe from the ANC to stand there. Bathi kumele sehle kwisibalo esikuso wena okwazi ukukhuphula izibalo nangalo nyaka mhla ka-29 seyihlomile akuvuka amaqhawe alombutho abambisane nathi. Really? Is that what you read in your Bible? No. That is why you are an imposter. You are not a pastor. You are a liar that has obviously been paid. That is being used against our people. And that is why I had to make this video. Because many people are going to come across this video. Yes, for sure. They're going to be angry. I'm not moved by your emotions. Because it is very important for human beings to understand which part of your body God gave to you as a gift to use for what purpose. You do not use your emotions to think. There is a brain in your head. That's the organ that you are supposed to use for thinking. Okay? I've put evidence in front of you that the African National Congress has done nothing but to destroy this country. Just based on the aspects this man has covered. If I were to go on about what the ANC has done in this country, it would not be under a 30 minutes video. It would much longer. That's why I just chose to focus on his speech and nothing else. He is lying concerning SASA. SASA is nothing good for our country. Make no mistake about it. You can research it for yourself. SASA grants is nothing good for our country. It's evidence that our country is not growing economically. And that can be directly linked as well to the violence and the crime in our country. We are number 1 in rape. We are number 3 in murder. Why? Because people are unemployed. SASA grant is completely not adequate for people to live. You can't live on 350 rands on all these ridiculous grants that are being given to people. And this is burdensome to those of us who are paying tax. That's why people are looking for jobs. I'm talking about black people for jobs overseas. It doesn't make sense that we're paying 41% tax, for an example, as pay as you earn. And then you add the 15% on that. That makes absolutely no sense. That is robbing Peter, as I've already said, to pay Paul. And that's completely a communist ideology that the African National Congress has implemented in this country. And yet we never voted for communists. Communist Party has never appeared on the ballot paper in this country once. It's amazing how the ANC has deceived South Africans. And they continue to deceive them. And now they are using men of the cloth. Shame on you. Shame on you. And to this imposter, shame on you that you have a price that you can be bribed to come up publicly and stand up and say things like those. If I were to begin to get into the scriptures, I would blow the ANC into smithereens. There's no Christians in the ANC. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. I'm not talking about people who complete forms here and you are asked, what is your religion? You say Christianity. No, clearly you are not a Christian according to the scripture. If you look at my MG's channel, you'll know what a Christian is. There's not one of them in the ANC. I don't care that people call themselves that. There are no Christians in the ANC. It's just that simple. Okay, that's it. I would leave it at that. You obviously are more than welcome to comment on that. That is now my analysis and provide evidence accordingly. But I think I've given you adequate reasons as to why the ANC should be removed from power. Okay? It, together with its communist policies, its satanic policies, which I may not address here, but I believe I've addressed them adequately in other videos, and I will still address them in the upcoming video that I'm going to be making about Ramaphosa. Okay, guys, ciao ciao. You give me your like, and if you have not yet subscribed, please do. It's very important for us to mobilize as many people as possible. Obviously, we intend to remove the ANC from power. That is our main goal. Whether we succeed or not, that is immaterial. It would be out of lack of trying. If we fail, we would fail because we have tried. Nobody who has never failed has ever tried anything. Bear that in mind. Okay? Ciao, ciao. All the best. See you in the next video.